Today, I'll mostly be talking about the Gullfoss plugin by Soundtheory. I'll be trying out the Gullfoss program on my new single, The Band in Black. Gullfoss by Soundtheory is a program, sort of artificial intelligence in terms of bringing down and taking away sounds that are harsh to the ear, let's say, or to bring sounds back into the mix that seem to be missing. The program is very simple to use, but extremely in-depth, and can pinpoint sounds and pinpoint problems with your mix that you might not have heard already. It's kind of like having a separate pair of ears with you, someone who has a really good set of ears to listen to your song for you as well. It's kind of like that. Again, because with this song, I have people recording their parts in their own houses and their own little rooms. All the sound is completely different from the sound of my room. Everyone's got their little quirks, So these were all the problems that I was facing. In order for me to get the cymbals coming out of the drums, I really had to push the high end, and if I took the high end out, the cymbals disappeared. Pedal steel, I had to really push the volume, for instance. The sound was there, recorded very quietly. Hamilton Belk on the banjo, perfect and easy to mix. Just put a little bit of top end on that as well, just to get a bit of that, to really hear the picking come out. On Johnny's track, I used the Soothe, and then I put the Gullfoss on it afterwards, just to see if I could do anything else with it. By bringing up the volume of the Gullfoss, I was able to introduce a little bit of bottom end back into the drums. But really where the Gullfoss came into its own was doing the entire mix, so across the MixBuss. I'm using the Gullfoss to recover some of the clarity that is needed and to tame some of the mud that otherwise would be in the mix.
Songs that brought them the throngs, but hard as they
see how the voice kind of thickens up. It clarifies the voice without taking the bottom end out of it.
Well, the band in black, they're touring, headed straight for you.
See how it kind of turns, it gets a little bit more clear across the top.
Dancing, homegirl romancing in a country kind of sound.
There's back.
Yahoo, 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 Yahoo.
So this is what the drums sounded like when I first got them in. I put a channel EQ over it, okay, which is just taking off some of the low bottom and giving some stuff up where the cymbals are on the top, doing sort of a low pass filter there. I then added 76, then I added a Soothe to tame the harshness up in the top. And then last in line, I added the Gullfoss. So with the Gullfoss, I used the recover up to around 32% here. Kick drum a little bit of juice. And then I tamed by 18% with the bias slightly to the top. No brightness added. And the boost I did by 1.1 dB, which again helped with the very bottom end here. So let me just take the Gullfoss off so you can hear the difference. And back in. It's subtle, but it works well. Then of course I just added the kick drum in down here. Right, so that's what I did with the drums. 70% of you guys are not subscribed to the channel. Go down below, hit the button, don't forget to ring the bell so you're notified every time a new video comes out. Woohoo! Now let me show you what I did on the bass. Okay, so bass, a little channel EQ again, just taming the below 40. Then I added the compressor, just to make sure that everything was even across the board. And then I added a soothe just to demud the bottom. I'll put the drums back in with the bass. Then the next thing I worked on were the guitars. So on the guitars, I put a console EQ again, just to fatten it up a little bit. I added a channel EQ, which removed the very low bottom end. I added a quick Hass to give a little bit of spread on the guitar. Initially, I had the guitar in stereo, but it's only one performance, so it really didn't make much of a difference having the two of them there. So I think by adding the Hass, it actually gave it a better sound. And then I added a Maserati plugin, which just gave it a little bit more attack and a little bit more brightness. On to the pedal steel, up to 0. So literally on the pedal steel, all I did was take the two separate tracks of pedal steel, pan them left and right, and just added a bit of gain to them to get them up loud enough so they could be heard over the top of everything else. Great playing there by Dave Murphy. Great stuff by Dave Murphy there. And the next thing is the banjo, played by Hamilton Belk in the USA, pan to the right, and starting somewhere at about the midpoint of the song. The banjos. Right, so on the banjo, I had the channel EQ just cutting off all the bottom stuff. I had a console EQ to give it a nice high boost, and a Maserati guitar to again give it some high end, just to give some clarity up at the top. All right, so now if we put all of those in. Really, really nice playing by Hamilton there. The electric guitar, I had it in with the banjo and pan to the right. And that again was just a Maserati and a channel EQ with some high end thrown in and the bottom cut off again. We have a piano which is over the end of the verse. And then the mandolin. And then after the mandolin, we have the ukulele. So all I had on that was EQ. So that's all the instruments and all the tracks laid in now, and I will now show you how I use the Gullfoss to clear up some of the mud in the actual final mix. So let me just put this back up. Let's go. So this is approximately how I had the entire mix running. I run everything through a bus, which is bus 256, and I run into my plugins, right? So I have an SSL compressor here, a channel EQ, a tube EQ, the Moog EQ for the really high-end fizzy stuff, another tube EQ just to add a little bit of warmth. Then I have two limiters on the end to try and hold in the volume before sending it to the actual stereo out, which is actually my MixBuss, which doesn't have that much stuff on it. On this song, I have Brainworks Master Desk. This is my mastering chain right here, and this is the Gullfoss. I sort of did something that you're not really supposed to do, but I liked the way it sounded, so I kept it, which is I put the Gullfoss across my mix after my final limiter, which really you should put it in before your final limiter, but I like the sound better. Really softly on this stuff. It's amazing how, you know, I was moving the bias up, I was moving this, and moving all the things up and down. I didn't really hear much difference, and then I just clicked the mute on the plugin. The difference was incredible. It's funny, playing around with it, I didn't hear it as much as when I just was able to just touch it, release it, and let it go. I would take it very easy on pushing the volumes up. I'd say anything over 100 would be probably too much. Although you can do it if you wanted it as a sound, for instance. You could push it up to 200. Bypass the Gullfoss and we'll let it run for a little bit. So I have the recover at 38, the tame at 34, the bias at -1, brighten at 25%, and the boost at 2.8, which gives me some more bottom end. That's with the bypass. And there it is. Just adds a nice
Since
bit
they
of clarity
started
to the
out
top.
singing, the band in black had
Off
dreams
again.
of rock and roll heaven, but this is what it seems.
In again. Out again.
Yahoo, yahoo.
The Gullfoss is removing some of the frequencies that are kind of adding to the muck. There's so many instruments coming through at one time, and also the fact that they were all recorded by different people at different places at different times, and then just thrown together. You can get your mix to about as good as you can possibly get with your own ears, and it's like having someone else come in and say, oh, maybe you should just put a little bit more real high end in there, or you know, the bottom end is a bit muddy. Say, hey, look, maybe you're not so clear up there. Or maybe you're, maybe you need a little bit more bottom down below. For on your master bus, this should be in everybody's toolkit. It really, really helps. The idea with mixing is to try and get as best as you possibly can. And I think this adds at least 10% onto the top of what you could probably do with your own ears. It gives me a little bit more trust in my final mix. Gullfoss by Soundtheory, an absolute must for everybody's master bus. Now, it also does work on all the other channels as well. It'll do exactly the same thing. But where I found it really most helpful is on my master bus. It's a small bit pricey. It's 180 euros. But, as I said, it's almost like having somebody sit in the room with you and give you a second opinion on what's wrong with your mix. So that's really valuable. If you have any questions, leave them down below, and make sure to comment on anything that you need to know or anything that you'd like to know about the program, and I'll see what I can do to help you out. Thanks, everybody, and I really hope you enjoy the new song with the Band in Black, iTunes and Spotify, and of course all the rest as well, Amazon. Wherever you think you can get it, it will be there. Thank you so much.